They thought she was finished. They were wrong. Karma, full movie. The entire courtroom burst into applause as the judge declared that Mara Ellsworth had lost everything. Her business was gone. Her home had been seized. Her reputation had been shattered by lies so convincing that even lifelong friends refused to look her in the eye. As she walked slowly toward the courthouse steps beneath the bright afternoon sun, strangers whispered that her life was over. Some smiled with satisfaction. Others shook their heads in pity. No one noticed that the people celebrating her downfall had just unknowingly begun writing the first chapter of their own destruction. If you believe kindness always finds its way back, that forgiveness is stronger than revenge, and that hope can rise from even the darkest moments, please like, comment, share this story with someone who needs encouragement today, and subscribe to our channel to become part of our growing family and our community. Mara Ellsworth had never dreamed of becoming wealthy. She had only wanted to build something honest. Nearly 15 years earlier she had opened a small restoration company that specialized in repairing neglected historic buildings. While other developers preferred demolishing old neighborhoods to make room for expensive luxury apartments, Mara believed every old structure deserved another chance, just as every person deserved one. She hired workers others ignored, including people recovering from addiction, single parents trying to rebuild their lives, veterans struggling to return to ordinary work, and older craftsmen who had been told they were no longer useful. Her company slowly became known not simply for beautiful buildings but for restoring broken lives. Among the first people Mara trusted was her ambitious financial director, Gavin Mercer. He appeared brilliant, charming, and fiercely loyal. He spoke confidently during meetings, remembered everyone's birthdays, and always seemed ready with solutions whenever problems appeared. Employees admired him. Investors praised him. Even Mara believed she had found someone who shared her values. She never realized Gavin admired only one thing in life: power. Over several years, Gavin quietly manipulated financial records, created shell companies, and transferred company assets through complicated transactions that almost no one noticed. Whenever auditors asked questions, he redirected suspicion toward innocent accounting mistakes. When projects succeeded, he accepted praise beside Mara. When difficulties emerged, he quietly blamed others. His greatest talent was making people believe exactly what they wanted to believe. Everything collapsed during one bright spring morning. Government investigators stormed Mara's offices carrying boxes of documents. News cameras gathered outside before employees even understood what was happening. Headlines exploded across television screens accusing Mara of fraud, tax evasion, and investor deception. Gavin stood before reporters expressing heartbreaking disappointment, claiming he had repeatedly warned Mara about unethical decisions but had been ignored. His carefully rehearsed performance convinced nearly everyone. Within weeks, banks froze her accounts. Investors abandoned her. Clients canceled every remaining contract. Newspapers labeled her a symbol of corporate greed. Her elegant office became empty except for cardboard boxes containing personal belongings. Friends who once celebrated her success suddenly stopped answering calls. Even neighbors crossed the street rather than greet her. Only one person remained beside her. Rowan Whitlock had worked as a carpenter in Mara's company since its earliest days. Quiet, thoughtful, and nearing retirement, Rowan understood people better than most psychologists. Years earlier, when his wife became seriously ill, Mara had secretly continued paying his salary during 6 months away from work without asking for publicity or gratitude. Rowan never forgot that act of compassion. As Mara sat alone on a park bench beneath warm afternoon sunlight, staring at children laughing nearby while wondering how her own life had unraveled so completely, Rowan quietly joined her carrying 2 cups of coffee. He offered one without speaking. She accepted it with trembling hands. Sometimes silence carries more comfort than words. For several minutes they simply watched leaves dancing gently in the breeze. Mara's eyes filled with tears she had tried desperately to hide. She believed every good thing she had built was gone forever. Yet Rowan noticed something she could not. Although people had stolen her company, they had not stolen her character. That difference would eventually change everything. Unable to find professional work because of her damaged reputation, Mara accepted a position cleaning an old community library undergoing renovation. Former executives who once requested appointments months in advance now walked past without recognizing her. She cleaned dusty shelves, polished windows, swept hallways, and organized donated books. Many people would have viewed the work as humiliating. Mara chose gratitude instead. She smiled at elderly visitors. She helped children find books. She repaired torn pages during lunch break simply because she could. The library director, Beatrice Holloway, noticed that volunteers naturally gathered around Mara. Whenever conflicts arose, Mara quietly solved them without seeking recognition. Whenever discouraged visitors entered, they often left smiling. Kindness had always been her greatest investment. Unlike money, kindness never truly disappeared. Meanwhile, Gavin's luxurious new life attracted admiration throughout the city. He purchased an enormous estate, drove expensive cars, appeared on magazine covers, and delivered speeches about ethical leadership. He established charitable foundations bearing his own name, carefully ensuring photographers attended every donation ceremony. People called him inspirational. He enjoyed every compliment. Yet success built upon deception carries invisible cracks. One afternoon, a young forensic accountant named Cedric Vaughn joined the regulatory agency responsible for investigating financial crimes. Fresh from university, Cedric possessed remarkable patience and an unusual habit of questioning details others overlooked. While reviewing old archived evidence connected to Mara's conviction, he noticed several digital signatures created after documents had supposedly been submitted. Something seemed impossible. Instead of ignoring his doubts, Cedric quietly continued investigating during spare afternoons. Weeks became months. Patterns emerged. Hidden transactions connected shell companies directly to Gavin. Electronic timestamps contradicted courtroom testimony. Anonymous corporations traced back to addresses owned by Gavin's relatives. The deeper Cedric searched, the larger the deception became. At the same time, karma quietly began visiting everyone who had willingly participated in destroying Mara. One executive who had fabricated testimony faced bankruptcy after risky investments collapsed. Another witness lost his professional license when unrelated dishonesty surfaced. A journalist who knowingly exaggerated accusations publicly admitted failing to verify critical evidence, permanently damaging her credibility. Each consequence appeared unrelated. Yet together they formed a chain. Truth has remarkable patience. It rarely arrives early. But it almost always arrives. During another sunny afternoon, Cedric visited the library where Mara worked. He watched from across the reading room as she comforted a frightened little boy who had accidentally damaged a borrowed book. Instead of scolding him, she patiently repaired the torn pages beside him, explaining that mistakes do not define people when they are willing to make things right. Cedric found himself wondering how someone capable of such compassion had become the villain described in official records. He introduced himself. He did not promise miracles. He only asked questions. Mara answered honestly, expecting nothing. Hope had become unfamiliar. Still, something inside her quietly awakened. Over the following months, Cedric uncovered enough evidence to reopen the investigation. This time prosecutors examined financial trails Gavin believed had been permanently erased. Technology had advanced. Old backups survived. Former employees, no longer intimidated by Gavin's influence, finally admitted they had been pressured into signing false statements. One by one, the walls surrounding his carefully constructed empire began collapsing. News channels that once celebrated Gavin suddenly questioned his integrity. Sponsors withdrew support. Investors demanded explanations. Board members resigned. His charitable foundation closed after authorities froze its assets. The same public that had eagerly applauded his rise now watched his downfall with equal enthusiasm. Meanwhile, Mara never celebrated his suffering. That surprised everyone. When reporters finally located her outside the library one peaceful afternoon, expecting anger and revenge, they instead found quiet dignity. She explained that justice mattered because innocent people deserved protection, not because guilty people deserved humiliation. She admitted the years had wounded her deeply. She admitted loneliness had nearly broken her spirit. But she refused to allow bitterness to become her identity. Her unexpected grace spread across social media faster than any scandal ever had. People who once believed the worst about her began questioning how quickly they had judged someone they barely knew. Former employees gathered voluntarily to apologize. Neighbors who had ignored her arrived carrying flowers. Investors asked whether she would rebuild her company. Mara thanked each person sincerely. She accepted apologies without pretending the pain had never existed. Forgiveness, she believed, did not erase scars. It simply prevented those scars from controlling tomorrow. Months later, after Gavin was convicted of multiple financial crimes and ordered to repay millions in stolen assets, Mara finally regained legal ownership of what remained of her company. Many expected her first act to be firing everyone associated with the betrayal. Instead, she did something astonishing. She reopened the business under a new mission. She created apprenticeship programs for people rebuilding their lives after failure. She hired individuals who had made honest mistakes but genuinely wanted another chance. She expanded partnerships with libraries, schools, shelters, and historic neighborhoods. Profit mattered. Purpose mattered more. Rowan smiled quietly as he watched young apprentices learning carpentry beneath bright afternoon skies. He knew Mara had restored something far more valuable than old buildings. She had restored faith. One unexpected afternoon, Mara received a handwritten letter. It came from Gavin. He admitted, for the first time, that envy had consumed him long before greed ever did. Watching someone succeed through compassion had convinced him kindness was weakness. He spent years proving himself smarter than everyone else, only to discover intelligence without integrity destroys everything it touches. Mara folded the letter carefully. She did not celebrate. She simply hoped his confession marked the beginning of genuine change. Because redemption begins only when truth is finally welcomed. As another beautiful afternoon settled across the city, children played in front of one of the historic buildings Mara's company had lovingly restored years earlier. Families filled nearby cafes. Elderly couples admired fresh flowers planted along sidewalks once abandoned. Former employees laughed together while repairing another forgotten landmark. Life had quietly come full circle. The woman everyone believed was finished had become stronger than she had ever been, not because she recovered her wealth, but because she never surrendered her compassion. The people who mocked her discovered that success built on lies eventually collapses beneath its own weight, while a life built on honesty may bend under unimaginable pressure but rarely breaks forever. Karma had arrived, not through revenge, but through truth, patience, and the quiet power of a heart that refused to become cruel. Before this story ends, we'd love to hear from you. Have you ever seen kindness rewarded when everyone else believed it was wasted? Please leave a meaningful comment sharing the lesson this story reminded you of or the person who inspired you never to give up. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Remember, life may allow lies to shine for a season, but truth has a way of returning in broad daylight. And when it does, those who stayed faithful to kindness discover that they were never truly defeated, they were simply being prepared for a greater beginning.